Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, we've got a super fun one for you today. This is the EMOJO Caddy Trike, and they call it that because in their flyer they actually have like a special adapter for carrying around golf clubs, sort of like a caddy, someone who follows you around, carries your clubs at the golf course. Apparently that accessory never made it. Maybe that's something they'll do in the future. We were hanging out with the staff and looking at the EMOJO Panther earlier today. This company has several models, including a folding bike, and this is Sam from the Electric Bicycle Center here in Fullerton. You've been carrying these guys for how long? Yeah.
About 6 months. They came in a little while ago with the trike. Actually, that's what attracted me to them, was the trike.
Me too. It's unique. I mean, look at it. It's like 3-wheel, very stable, high utility. You've got a rear basket and a front basket. It's like 19-pound weight capacity up front, which is a lot, and then in the back 55 pounds, which is kind of standard. You sort of think like you could probably hold more than that. 330-pound weight capacity on this thing. Big fat tires, 4-inch. The front wheel is 24 and the rear are 20, which lowers that rear basket, making it easier to load. And check this out, there's even this cool like buckle system and almost like a pickup truck where that gate folds down and you can load this thing easier. I just think this is so cool, and especially for people who might be feeling a bit intimidated trying to ride on a 2-wheel bicycle, keeping their balance. A lot of times, you know, you get a little bit older, or maybe you have an injury or something, but you still want to get that leg exercise. One thing I noticed as we were going through the specs here is that these ProWell crank arms are 152 millimeters versus 165 or 170. So they're a little bit shorter, which means you'll still get that like knee bending motion while you're pedaling, but not quite so extreme, right? And so for people with sensitive knees, just a little bit of motion is very nice, and it elevates that crank arm when it's in the lower position, so you aren't going to get pedal strike as easily. You know, these trikes, you got to be pretty thoughtful when you're riding because they are rather wide. I was cruising over here with Sam in the neighborhood, and I was going past a car, and I turned in, and he said, "Man, you almost took out the bumper on that car."
Yeah, riding sidecars with motorcycles, you get used to that. You might have a couple strikes. I remember hitting somebody years ago, and she's like, got out of her car, and she's like, "You hit my car." Oh. I'm like, "Here's some money, are we cool?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're good to go."
That was nice. I had a situation like that when I was younger. Same thing, and I like kind of bumped a car in front of me, and they had a hitch, and I was in like a Subaru, and it poked a hole through my bumper. Oh. And like their car was fine, and I was like, "Oh, can we go to an ATM and I'll pay for it?" And there was like no damage, and she was like, "I don't know." And anyway, thank you for letting me off finally, lady. I drove around with a hole in my bumper for years. But it was my mistake. It was rush hour traffic, you know? And so sometimes if you're stressed about going somewhere and you need a break, a bicycle is a great way to take that break. So let's get back into these specs here. This is a hydroformed aluminum alloy frame with partial internal cable routing. Really nice looking. These, I would call them, they're kind of like mini fenders. You know, you're going to get a lot of splash up under your feet and shins, but at least you're not going to get it up into your mouth and in your face because that little, it's almost like a mountain biking fender or something. And then back here, same thing. They don't wrap around all the way. They're not huge, but it might keep you a little bit more dry. It's actually kind of fun sometimes on trikes when you're going and you're kicking up this like rooster tail of water, but it doesn't hit you. Might hit your arms if you're really flared out. But again, the utility of this trailer combined with the float of this bike. So, you know, again, 24 by 4 inches up there, 20 by 4 inches back here. That's a lot of surface area, so you get pretty good traction. When you're pedaling, it only spins the right rear wheel, and then the motor is built into the front, and a lot of times that can kind of spin out easily because the rear of portion of the bike is a bit heavier and a lot of body weight is towards the rear. It's not as much of a deal here. I haven't been spinning out so much. I went to like a gravel parking lot and I just gunned it, and it didn't spin out. It kind of ramps up smoothly. This is a 500-watt planetary geared motor. It's actually a fat bike specific motor up there from Bafang. And when you combine that with this, you know, spring suspension from EMOJO, it's kind of basic. It's got preload adjust with these dials here. If you just turn those a little bit towards the right, it's going to tighten it up. So if you're someone who weighs a little bit more, you can preload those springs, and then you won't be maxing out your travel right off the bat. Same thing if you've got like a box full of kittens or something heavy up here, and you just want to like account for that. There's a little bit of adjustability, no lockout, there's no rebound adjust, there's no real compression adjust. It's a basic fork, but it does the job. It adds a lot of comfort, even with these, fat tires, which give you some comfort. Even with this nice adjustable angle stem and swept-back bars, it's just nice to have a little bit of extra comfort. And then they went all the way with this Pro Max Suspension Seatpost, 27.2 millimeters on this, and it's got about 40 millimeters of travel, paired with this just kind of a comfort oversized velo saddle with rubber bumpers. So comfort is the name of the game here. I've seen some bigger seats that actually have little backrests for people who need the extra support, but this is a good start. Rubber, kind of generic grips, and they can spin. See, it's a hot day, so I'm just pulling on it and it's spinning versus a locking grip. Not the end of the world, but worth calling out. That is a cheaper part. This is only a single-speed drivetrain as well, so in a way it keeps it simple. The cockpit's very clean, and you'll see the bike's actually kind of rolling away on us right here, and that's because we haven't locked the brakes. So Sam's going to do that. There's a pin. You just pull the brake lever in and lock it, and they have one on both sides, so that's awesome actually, and pretty important if this is loaded up. The bike weighs 90.1 pounds with that battery pack in there. If you take the battery pack off, this weighs about 10.2 pounds. It's a heavy bike. At least the battery's low and center, and they didn't try to stuff it in the cargo bay back here, which would take up some of the space that you could otherwise load. It might rise it up. There's a lot of stuff to consider here. And the brakes, this is another good area. We were talking about parking brakes, the actual rider brakes. They're mechanical, 4 fingers. You need the extra hand strength because, it's like a heavier bike, and the disc brakes here, they're only 160 millimeters versus 180, but at least we have them on both of the rear wheels. And that's nice. You can see there's this little splitter thing right here. So the rear brake, it's definitely more work because you got to go all that distance and then split it into 2 calipers. Again, I'm kind of mixing feedback for you here. On the one hand, it's like, wow, it has 3 disc brakes. That's awesome. On the other hand, it's like, well, they're mechanical. You have to work harder. It gets the job done. But at a 90-pound weight, completely unloaded, like, it is a heavier bike. And this is a pretty powerful bike too. Up to 20 mile per hour top speed, which is like way too fast to be going on a trike like this. Super easy to turn and then tip the whole thing, and you'd be laid out. And this could hurt you, like rolling on you. What's your experience been?
So we started doing trikes 31 years ago. Wow. And speed is the enemy when it comes to a trike. I've literally gone out and sold trikes to people and gone in their backyard and had them practice their figure 8s on the grass and get that down. Don't go out thinking you really got the control of this thing, because you'll end up smacking into a light pole or a bus bench.
Hitting a car with the rear end.
Anything could happen. So, and most people that are buying these, they don't want the speed. They just want to have the utility of being able to get down to Trader Joe's and pick up their pistachios, or go over to Home Depot and get their little, whatever they need for their little home project. And this gives them that independence and that freedom.
Yes, and safety has been addressed here pretty well. So, if you do ever feel out of control, both of these brake levers do have that second cable. That's a motor inhibitor, so it's going to cut power to the motor instantly, whether you're in pedal assist or throttle on demand. And I think that's awesome. It's good to be able to override like that. The motor up here, I mentioned before, it's a 500 watt nominal planetary geared Bafang, fat bike specific. We got these extra thick 13 gauge spokes front and rear. This thing is built like a tank. And that's why I'm sort of like, you can probably put a little more than the 55-pound rated, but that's the official word. I like that they've got a plastic chain guide down here so that you don't get snagged, right? Like snag your skirt or your pants or something like that. In a way, that's a little bit of a safety feature. And they've even got a headlight built into this thing, and it is wired in. So that's really nice. This is Kendo Plus by Spinninga. It points where you steer. It's not as high and visible as if it was up here, but this gets a little bit cluttered. It's better than nothing. Keep in mind, there's no, I'm actually not even seeing like reflectors for the rear. Did you guys just not install those, or did they not come with any?
I think they were there. We just didn't put them on. I think it goes on the seat post in the back.
Okay.
And then there's one up on the handlebar that should be installed as well.
That's kind of basic. I've seen some other, trikes that actually have lights or bigger reflectors on the back. I would be probably getting one of those big like caution signs or maybe a flag or something like that, because you do sit a little bit lower on these trikes. And so on the one hand, it can really be an empowering type of electric bike, and the electric is super important when it's that heavy and you only have one gear. If you ever, you know, completely drain that battery, this is going to be tough to get home. Or if you're far from home and then there's a flat tire or something, loading this in a truck is going to be no fun. So keep that in mind. Be responsible when you're riding. Make sure you hit the tire pressure. Don't let them get too low, or you're going to get a pinch flat possibly. They do have these nice punched out rims, which helps to reduce some of that weight that we talked about. And then again, where the battery's positioned is really nice. This is a 48 volt, 15 amp hour. It's like 720 watt hours. Enormous battery pack. And they do let you tap into that with this little USB type A port. You can charge your phone, or maybe you could put some Christmas lights on this bike, or you could run a wire way up here and put your phone up there for GPS. Lots of possibilities. It would be nice if there was a USB port right here. You can see where there's actually a kind of a mold for it, but they just didn't opt for that display. Still a nice display. It swivels a little bit to reduce glare, not removable. Throttle's within reach. I think a lot of people would prefer the throttle on the right, and I feel like you could do that probably. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. Sam, do you? Is there any reason why the throttle couldn't be on either side?
Yeah, we've done that for customers. I actually had a guy that was handicapped once, didn't have the use of one hand, and we've switched the throttle over for him, so you can do that, definitely.
That's nice. And then the button pad right here would be a little bit more reachable. So you have a lot of options with this cockpit because you don't have gears. And because you don't have gears, it's not going to go out of tune. It's not going to make as much noise. The chain's not going to fall off quite as easily. 18-tooth sprocket in the rear. 42-tooth chainring, steel in the front. Nice, you know, pretty solid frame. You know, it's solid because they've got this extra tubing here, which raises standover height a little bit, but not too bad. And I mentioned this suspension seat post, that raises it a few inches. So if you were someone who wanted to get all the way down, you could get rid of that and go for a rigid seat post. But you'll notice how I have the quick release in kind of an up-angled position. It's because it collides with the battery if you don't do that. Okay, and then they've got this nice flip-up post with to me it's amazing. I've never seen one like this where it has the flip up with the suspension design. I think that's very handy. It makes it possible to get this battery off. We just unlock it like this and then slide it up. The challenge is, you know, when you do that, it is about 10 pounds, and so it can be a little bit deceptive. There's a nice handle built in. It's good to take the battery off if you know, imagine parking this thing. Like, do you have space for it? I've done the length, the width. I did the handlebar width and the actual like wheel width. These could really mar up a wall or even getting it through a doorway. So check that before you get it. Make sure you could even get it inside. If you can't, you know, park the bike outside. Keep in mind the display can take some weather wear over time with water and sun, but they're designed to be pretty tough, pretty resilient. The battery, however, with lithium-ion cells inside, those are sensitive to the extreme heat and the extreme cold. Cold isn't as hard on it, but it limits your range. You're just not going to go as far. Heat over time breaks those cells down. They're not going to last as long. So there is a year-long comprehensive warranty from these guys, EMOJO. They've been in business doing e-bikes since like 2013, and I think 1997 is when they...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know,
exactly right.
They've got a factory in Shanghai where they do like motorcycles and mopeds and bicycles, and now e-bikes is their new thing. And they've done a pretty good job. You know, there's a good balance of value. This is a unique build. It's $27.99, you know.
Yep. So a lot of people we sell these to are on a fixed income in certain cases, and you were mentioning where do you park it, and I was thinking in my head, you know, I've sold a lot of these, and there are people that live in trailer parks.
Yeah.
And for them, this is like a pickup truck,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
And they can use it for a lot of different reasons, and that might be their only form of transportation. Price, you know, is a little bit, you know, it's in there. And you were mentioning about the battery. The great thing about this battery is it's 48 volt, 15 amp hour. That equates to about 720 watt hour battery.
Yeah.
You're looking at a 30+ mile range with this trike. And my wife's been riding it. Actually, she's used this as her personal transportation lately.
Yeah.
And she puts our cat in a little backpack up front. She has her backpack in the back with all her gear. And when I see her coming to work, I get to work before she does a lot of days. I'll see her coming down the sidewalk at like 2 miles an hour, and she's just creeping down the sidewalk nice and slow on it. So she's using it in a responsible manner.
She's doing a great job, and with a variable speed trigger throttle and 9 levels of pedal assist, there's a lot of Yeah, thank you, Sam. I want to call out that with such a high capacity battery pack, they only give you a 2-amp charger. You know, at least it has this metal tip. That's going to be tough if you drop it. It's going to last over time. Weighs about 1.5 pounds, but it's going to take longer, maybe 7+ hours to charge that if it gets all the way down to 0. To really take care of those batteries, lithium ion, it's best to keep them between 20 and 80%. So, you know, don't just wait till the next day to charge it or the next week and let it get all the way down. That could be kind of tough on those cells. It's best to sort of, you know, top it off if you haven't ridden for a while, check in on it, that kind of thing, and keep in mind that it could take that extra time to fill all the way up. But again, love that they've got the USB port built right in. So we put the key in, you know, there's a couple steps here. We go, you know, like this, that kind of locks it to the frame down here, and then on. And now we can't take these keys out. I've complained about this before. This is like a Silverfish battery pack style. It's very common on some of the older bikes and stuff. It's external, but at least it's at the middle of the frame, like I mentioned before. I'm gonna lock that seat post in, right? And again, I angled it up so that it wouldn't make contact with the battery case and scratch it up. But these keys, they could snag on your skirt or on your pants while you're pedaling, and they're just gonna jingle around. You know, the trade-off would be, okay, well, just take it off your keychain. The problem is then you park somewhere, and when you park, you got to, you know, unlock it and take this off with you. Now your battery's unlocked. So someone could kind of, well, actually, I'm sorry. You can get it out in the off position. Oh, thank goodness. So it's locked to the frame. You can get the key off, but now it's not on a keychain. It could be easy to misplace. So a lot of times I'll like try to find a little carabiner or a clip or something so I can clip it onto my keys. It just adds a bit of inconvenience to me. And I would love to see that change, but it's because these battery designs haven't changed for years. Down here in this box is a controller, a motor controller. It's nice that they separated it. It's going to make replacement batteries easier to find. And there's a company right here pretty close to Fullerton called FTH Power.
Yeah, they rebuild these battery packs.
Yeah.
They're fairly reasonably priced too.
This is kind of like an open source type of battery where it's not super hard to get it replaced or, you know, refilled with even nicer cells. In the future, you could get even more capacity. So for me, that's a really kind of peace of mind sort of a thing. And the rest of the bike, it's using pretty standard components. And as long as you're not too rough on it, you can probably find some tire replacements eventually. If you get a flat tire, some inner tubes. Just keep in mind that the tube size is going to be different because that's the 24 versus the 20 in the rear. Again, the 20 lowers the basket. The 24 actually gives you a lower angle of attack, a little bit more comfort, and just some stability. So it's nice that they did that. And, you know, these pedals, they're pretty large, they're sturdy. These are platform pedals. They give you some good grip. And then if we come all the way down here, we can peek through. You see how there's this like silver magnet, and then there's the hole. So they've only used magnets for every other sensor. And actually that's the sensor right there, but there's only 6 magnets on this instead of 12, which means it doesn't start as quickly and it doesn't stop as quickly as some of the more advanced sensors. And now they have ones that are sealed and they're more compact, and they put them on this side. So this is old technology. It's just not as sensitive as it could be. Not the end of the world. Again, we have the throttle that can kind of override, which is nice. But when we do the ride test, you'll notice that my starting and my stopping isn't reflected as quickly by the motor. So this is the display, SW900. It looks like a King meter display. When we turn it on here, a lot of times I like to be on the bike because it's hot. Like that throttle, you could take off, and it's a powerful motor, but it starts in assist level 1. And that is somewhat limited by the throttle. Is that the case here, Sam? I think it is. Yeah, because on my way over here, I had to arrow up to the higher level of assists to get the throttle to give me max power. I tested it at 20 miles per hour, and Sam was like, "Be careful, man! You're flying on that thing."
I want to address that a second real quick too. You know, we're putting a lot of time and effort into talking about the pedal assist. I've been selling trikes for a long time, and I can tell you honestly, 90% of our customers that buy tricycles, they don't pedal. They just use the throttle. So you've got that throttle there, and if you are a more advanced rider, you know, also the application of this bike, it might not just be the senior and the guys that are in the later years that are buying this bike. It might be somebody that's out on a farm that's using this. I mean, the applications are endless. I could see somebody selling ice cream on the boardwalk down at the beach using this platform.
Okay.
You know?
So to that, I would say part of the reason I'm tearing into this is because this is kind of rare. There aren't too many, and some of these are glaring opportunities for improvement. Like 9 levels of assist, that's too many. That's too many. Look at that. It's like click, 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 and then it doesn't go around. So now I want to go all the way back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd prefer if it was just 5. We might be able to adjust that in the display.
We absolutely can adjust that, and I think it's the dealer's responsibility selling it to set the bike up, the trike up properly when making the sale for liability reasons.
And we'll show you those settings in just a second. Pedal assist level 0. The throttle doesn't work. So Sam is like, yeah, you know, a lot of people, they want to use the throttle all the time. Okay, in order to do that, you got to be in assist level 9. And what happens when you're like, oh, I'm just coasting, and then you move your feet? It's going to take off on you. No.
Yep.
Like I'd almost rather that this was just a throttle bike. And that's, I don't think you can change that. I don't think you can make pedal assist level 0.
So what you can do is you can, this video will be seen by the manufacturer, and the manufacturers have told us, you know, we listen to what you say, Court, we listen to what the dealers say, and we also listen to the end users. First iteration, the next time, they'll probably have those improvements made to it.
And frankly, there just aren't that many choices on this. So a lot of people still get this. It's a great bike. It's fun to ride around. It gets the job done. You know, as Sam said earlier, he's like, you know, the price is right in there. It's more expensive than it probably needs to be, in my opinion, but you get the baskets, you get the suspension, you get the light. They've obviously tried, you know, they've tried to get this pretty close, and they've added a lot of value, like that adjustable stem. It's going to feel comfortable. So coming back to the display here for a second, 5 ticks on the battery infographic. Each tick is 20% step. It'd be nice if that was 10 or a percentage. It'd be a bit more precise, but with such a high capacity battery, it's not a huge deal. Odometer, and if we press the M, it says trip meter. We have current speed in miles per hour, but I'll show you how to change it to kilometers per hour. Assist level, just up or down like we said before. And motor watts, that's like power basically that the motor's putting out. Now, we had the bike locked a second ago, like this, right? And when we do that, the motor inhibitor is active. So I've had this experience before where I get on the bike and I'm like, let's go, and nothing is happening. And it's because the brake is locked. So I'm gonna hop on the bike for safety. There we go. I'm gonna unlock that, and now the throttle will go. There we go, right? Feels pretty good. There's no reverse on this trike, which is something that people ask for occasionally, but you can see I'm pretty easily walking this backwards. Depends on how tall you are. Depends on the terrain. This is really smooth, flat terrain. It's not windy or anything. Again, it's a big bike, so you might want to get someone to help you. You might even want to get off and push the bike backwards. If you do that, take it to assist level 0 so that throttle isn't going to go. And look at my foot. If you put your foot down and you accidentally hit that throttle, you can run your foot over, and that could be terrible. Yep. Like if someone was, Sam is like nodding his head over here.
Yeah, so my grandma had an electric trike in the 1980s, and I can't stress this enough, guys. If you're going to get somebody on an electric trike, let them know you got to stay on it. The minute you try to bail off of it, those rear wheels are going to run you over. And she broke her hip. Yeah. This was a major thing for our family. At her age, that was a very traumatic experience. So when you're on a trike, keep your speeds down and keep your feet on the pedals. Don't try to put your foot. It's natural for you to try to put your foot down, especially if you're going up onto 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's like a submarine. Go down with it.
The challenge is that's going to hurt too. It's just going to hurt less. So,
yeah, it will.
So let's talk about how lowering speed works on this. This is a perfect segue, Sam. Okay, so here's some of the tips. Again, I'm in assist level 0. I don't want to get run over either. Hold the up arrow, and we get the headlight working. This is also a backlit display. So here's the headlight. Again, pretty good, Spaninga. It's bright, so you can't really see how bright the light is right now. Hold the down arrow, and it would do walk assist. I'm going to see if that works here. It's in assist level 0. Good, I don't think it does. So we have to go up to one of the pedal assist levels, then we hold down. And nothing. I wonder if that's, maybe it doesn't have walk assist.
Might be a good thing.
Yeah, you know, it's set, I see walk on the display, but then maybe they disabled it. I would just be careful with that. Normally holding down is walk assist. I'm going to take it back to 0. Now we're going to get into the settings. We hold up and down simultaneously for a couple seconds. There's all these different readouts. So up here it says what menu it is. So like P01, speed, 1, 2, 3. That might be power level. So I'm going to take it to 1. The next one, miles per hour or kilometers per hour. That's how you set that. So that's P02. P03, 48. That's for 48 volt battery. P05, 50, 51. I don't even know what that is talking about. P05. Okay, I'm trying. P06, 28. Also, Oh, rim size. Huh, thank you, Sam. Coming to my rescue. And that's because the rim for the front where the motor is actually mounted. P08. This is actually it's only in kilometers, this readout. So it's in 41, which equates to roughly 20 miles per hour. Okay, I waited too long and it kicked us out of the menu. But basically that last menu, P08, that's where you adjust the top speed. So I'm gonna go back to P08 and I'm gonna up or down, and 10. That 10 is roughly 6 miles per hour. 10 kilometers per hour, 6.2 kilometers per hour. You go to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So the lowest you can get this to go is 6 miles per hour. 25 kilometers per hour, that's 15.5 miles per hour. That's the European limit on all electric bikes in certain geographies. So I don't know, I almost want to take it down to like, well, for the ride test, I'm going to go all the way up for you guys. Just to do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so there we go. So we've cycled through now P16. I don't know. There's a lot of menus in here. Password, I think. I'm just going to bail on this at this point. Oh, I shut it down. To get out, you'd hold up and down. Okay, guys. I'm going to hop on this thing on a ride around a little bit, and I'll be right back, Sam.
Be safe.
Thank you. Hopping on with the brake active. Taking it all the way up to assist level 9. That was probably what one of those menus is asking about. And then unlocking, hit the throttle. There we go. This is a bike-friendly street, but we still got to look both ways. Here we go. This is pretty fast for a trike. It's nice and comfortable, upright, got the big wheels. See, I always forget that wheel is sticking out. So it's like if you get close to the curb, you could clip it, or, you know, pull if you're trying to corner too tight. Just be careful, guys. And then here's turning. So I'm turning, get that inner wheel, trying to keep it on the ground. I slowed way down for that turn. And you can kind of ride no hands, but you know, it's just a very different experience. Oh, there we go, getting it up on 2 wheels back there. It's really not too hard to do, especially if you don't even have to be going that fast.
And that's showing the utilitarian that'll do that most trikes will never be able to do. You know, that's going back to like maybe having it out on a farm or something, you know? Female off-road. I remember seeing the first fat tire trike out at Interbike about 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, that's cool. I've never seen anything like that. And I'd installed hundreds of kits in my store. And the kits are what most people are doing. They can afford a kit. They find a trike. They put it on there. The other thing I want to mention too is there might be some people that are going to order a trike online. Yeah. And a lot of times people lose the ability to ride a bicycle and they think they can ride a trike. You need to go down and test ride a trike at a bicycle shop before having a kit or ordering one online sometimes, because I have a lot of customers that come in the parking lot and they actually can't ride the bike. They end up going into the curb or heading toward a car somewhere.
And it's a weird feeling on the trike. Like, I'm used to bikes, so I was trying to handle it off the curb and it kind of bucked me around because
a lot of counter steering.
There's a lot of, yeah, the trike, it's just a different experience. Like Sam's saying, it's nice if you can try it in a shop. This time I want to do pedal assist. So I'm not going to use the throttle. You'll notice that it's hard to get this thing started because it's heavy and there's only one gear. And it's sort of geared for like 10, 15 miles per hour. So you go to 20 and you're like spinning. And when you're just starting out, you're like super slow. And I have a knee injury, so I don't really like that. Kind of get myself moving a little bit. There we go. And then finally kicks in, but it takes a minute. Now watch when I stop. It waits quite a while for the motor to actually cut out, and that's why these motor inhibiting brake levers are so important, because, you know, if you ever feel out of control, just squeeze the brakes. That's the biggest thing. And then stopping distance, I mean, you know, that's not nearly as fast as a hydraulic brake would be. Yes, I'm only using the front. And again, the 160 millimeter rotors, they're not the end of the world because these are smaller wheel sizes, so they have a mechanical advantage over something like a 26 or 27.
It's triple disc brakes. I should do a brake test on it and see how quickly I can come to a stop.
Maybe you can do that. Like, we can swap bikes.
You got it.
Okay, I'm gonna do the right thing here. I'm gonna take this all the way down to 0 for Sam, so no one gets hurt.
Oh. All right, coming at you for it.
Okay.
Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
That's probably more impressive than any other trike I've actually been on as far as stopping power. And I've sold a lot of trikes, and that's one area that they really are weak in, is the braking. But again, if you don't have a lot of speed, you still need to have brakes, man. And this has got good brakes. Yeah,
and it's nice that they have them on all 3 wheels, because a lot of times, as we mentioned before, when you pedal, it's only the right wheel. So there are some trikes where that's the only brake with the right wheel, and you do like a coaster brake where you slam backwards, whereas this one, it's a little bit more flexible because it uses the brake levers. This was a really like in-depth review. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, practice your figure 8s. Watch me out here. You got to go slow. Don't go fast. So until you can get down doing figure 8s without lifting the wheels, don't go out on the sidewalk or on the streets riding a trike. You got to practice these figure 8s in your backyard or in front of your house. Maybe find a cul-de-sac or a parking lot somewhere.
I want to see you go up the curb. You do that?
Practice those figure 8s.
Figure 8s get all the safety.
So if you're gonna go up a curb, you want to square it off straight and hit the throttle.
There we go.
Impressive. Not bad.
Nice. Careful not to get too close to that fence.
Yes.
Good job.
Right on.
Whoa.
That's a wrap.
Thank you so much, Sam. Guys,
Got it.
For the full written review, we'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I've got the standover height, minimum saddle height, width, length, weight, all the stuff we talked about here. But you can compare this to other trikes back to back. There's like a comparison tool. I welcome feedback, stories, anything you want to share. I love you guys. I hope you ride safe. And I want to see this gate in action. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's put the parking brakes on.
Yeah.
Like the front wheel halfway up there.
It's like a latch, and then
it's just like an old, like my 1962 pickup truck had.
Looks like we got...
Yeah, that just needs to be hooked right here. Just like my 1962 pickup truck. Exactly like
it was like this?
Exactly. People that have old Chevy or Ford pickup truck will know exactly what I'm talking about.
So I'm not sitting on the actual like flip out piece.
The tailgate.
Feels pretty good. I could get used to this.
And your front wheel's halfway up the curb.
He's leveled it, man. This is pretty cool. Just don't sit on those bolts there. You're not gonna have a good time.
No.
You know, I noticed that some of the hardware on their bikes, it's like a little bit longer than it needs to be right there. Some of the this is also, you know, square tapered spindle, a little bit more basic. But again, you know, you compare this to like a high bike or a Specialized, and you know, they've got everything like just so. This is a little bit more piecemeal, but they've done a good job. I mean, where else are you gonna get fenders like this and paint matched even? I mean, and this is aluminum, right, versus steel, so it's not gonna rust.
There's a lot of trikes on the market. I don't know how many fat tire trikes are on the market, and this is the first company that came to me with a fat tire bike, and that's why it's on my showroom floor.
And selling through a dealer, because yeah, there are other companies, like a few come to mind, but they're only direct, and this can be a daunting experience, you guys. My first e-bike, I bought it online and it showed up, and my heart sank, man.
Yeah, and that's the other thing you want to talk about too, is if you're going to get it shipped to you, try to partner with a bicycle shop that can actually assemble it for you, because trikes take a lot longer to put together. In some cases, it'll take us a couple hours to put a trike together.
And that no bike shop's going to want to do that. You come in with a bike that you bought online, and they're going to be like, no way.
Well, that's why you pay them. You know, you've got to develop that rapport with them, buy some stuff from them, get a lock,
get a helmet
from them, get some rapport going, and then when you show up with your bike, they're more likely to help you with that.
And these days, there's more and more mobile bike repair. Sometimes it's like a local one,
true.
Or there's VeloFix, Beeline.
Yep.
I don't know if Beeline does anything except Excel.
No.
Something like that. Anyway, we keep going on this bike kind of because it's fun and it's cool.
This is a great fun bike. I love the fat tires on it too. You know, this thing's a blast. And again, lots of different applications can be used for this fat tire trike.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sam. Ride safe, you guys. We'll see you next time.